Apologies for the delays, everybody, and welcome and thank you for the kind introductions, Reese and Rick. Look, we are going to talk about dispersion. We're looking for dispersion halos around some very interesting gold-silver mineralisation we've located at the Arrowhead and Yappa prospects in far north Queensland. Very quick caveat. I'm not a geochemist, but I will take questions on notice for Ryan Noble and so forth from CSIRO, who's been a partner in this venture. And also, I was hoping to have results, but COVID-19 has kind of smashed us. We have been delayed getting into the field, which you'll hear about shortly. We have got the results, the samples back in Perth now. They are at CSIRO being processed as I speak. And so essentially at the end of this, the message is going to be watch this space. But I'll talk to you, everyone, about what we've done and how we've done it. Very brief background about the project first. So the project itself, Empress Springs, is about 50 kilometres south of Croydon in far north Queensland. It was brought to Independence Group, so it's a farm-in that we're doing with them. In 2006, they dropped it. They then picked it up again in 2014. Douglas Haynes was the principal person in that team, and of course he's best known for Olympic Dam. So we farmed into it 2016. We are targeting major mineralising systems undercover. It's a very interesting region, and I think as I go through, you'll see how unique it is. There's a very unique dike swarm, north-south dike swarm picked up in aeromagnetics, which was what Douglas was actually targeting in the first place. About 55 kilometres south of Croydon, and we have 11 EPMs, large land holding area, and nearly 2,500 square kilometres. So very briefly on the regional geology here, so GA, aeromag interpretation of the region. You can see the central three tenements approximately of the Empress Springs project area, that's now expanded, showing that it's within the overall Croydon province, which I'll show with my mouse. Hopefully you can all see that. A very interesting location, and we're very fortunate to in fact have a GA seismic traverse that goes right through the tenement package. So we have a lot of information about this and this area, and I think a lot of people we've got some very high level input into this to understand what we have and including age dating and so forth with Curtin University. Moving on quickly, I think it's worth mentioning with that seismic reprocessing, we have very good evidence of favourable plumbing systems. We are on the margin of two plates, interpreted between the Nuna suture between the North American craton and the North Australian craton. That's subject of a paper which came out with Curtin University earlier this year. But the location of the Empress Springs project, I think you can see the three main central tenements that I pointed out before, lie on the junction of a number of major mantle structures. These were picked up originally by Dr. John Ronsky. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. This is the raw GA data, which they had interpreted some original interpretations of fairly listric sort of typical GA faults going through the basement. And there's a clear basement offset you can all see there around this location here, and another one over here. That's been refined by further interpretation by high size, which has confirmed the deep the nature of those structures underneath the project area. So we're pretty excited to be there and to be exploring. We've done a lot of work in a very short period of time, and now I guess more onto what we've achieved. Very briefly, in terms of structural architecture, there's the outline of the interpreted Croydon province on the left. This from Dr. John Ronsky, the main permacarboniferous arc of volcanics there, and all of the main deposits, as you can say, are inboard of that arc. We've now found that same permacarboniferous material within the project area, which opens up a lot of new potential mineralizing options for us there. Not just gold, but a lot of other options as well. So this is all interpretation from John Ronsky. What we've located, we've done 3 phases of drilling. We've done in 10 months, two field seasons, around 9,000 metres of drilling, which is really the only way to find the mineralisation. We've tried a lot of things. We have tried termite mound sampling with debatable success. We're trying a number of other things, but we've certainly found very interesting silver gold mineralisation, and it's in a whole suite. So it's not just a little bit of gold or a bit of silver. And of course, doing air core drilling, you have to be careful with silver anomalies because it can come from the drill bits. But we found in 4 separate locations, all proximal to this ring structure, which some people call caldera, some, I don't really care what you want to call it, but it's a very unique feature. And you can see these dikes, part of this dike swarm I was talking about before, wrapped into the core of this and the magnetite destruction in the center of that feature. It's a truly unique area. And at 4 locations, we've found very good mineralization, very interesting mineralization. So it's an anomalism at this stage, but 10 meters at about 1 gram at Arrowhead. Arrowhead West had mostly silver, but a number of other, no copper, but lead zinc. Yappa was a very interesting, we found a waterboard there, and on the basis of what the rocks looked like, we drilled that and found some more gold and silver anomalism there. And Wilson Bore, at this stage, only has very high silver, but it's very early days. So what our protocol was doing was basically drilling to basement, into basement, and sampling that. So this gives you this photo, a very quick general kind of feel for what the country's like. It's channel country, very thick vegetation, quite difficult to explore, but you were certainly there and finding some very interesting results. Very briefly, the project geology is dominated by the Mesoproterozoic Croydon volcanics and Esmeralda granites. We now have, we've done 10 age dates across drill samples from this area, and all of the granites are all Esmeralda granite age. The volcanics up to about 1700 million years, but on the basis of the results we've found to date, and on the basis of what we've seen, we really like this area. So looking at the blue tenements there, Moho expanded their footprint by about 2,000 square kilometres. So the area, as you can also see, is covered by cover. The Carpentaria Basin sediments out there to the west and the southwest make life difficult, but that's also the opportunity, because this truly is a frontier project, as Reece was suggesting. It's one of the few, and I think it's a really interesting one. And given the success we've had to date, it's probably one of the reasons we've been granted the CDI grant. So how do we explore 2,000 extra square kilometres of ground cost effectively and quickly? Well, it was decided quite obviously to do hydrogeochemistry, and that was really where this took us, and we then applied for a grant. We were successful in the grant earlier this year. That shows a figure, I think, from the grant, original grant application, showing where we thought boreholes would be. The proposal to sample about 120 holes across our project area in conjunction with CSIRO, and that has morphed a little bit, but I'll go into that shortly. CSIRO were fabulous, providing sampling methodology, training, field equipment, which was uploaded from Perth here over to Queensland very successfully, and used by the field crew there. I'll talk more about that later, including the software that they use. It was pretty bulletproof, really. We had it approved on the 25th of February, and then, thanks to COVID, we were stuck in Perth until August. As you know, we've got a fairly tight border here, and for a long time Queensland did too. So we then we had to make a plan B, and we have been over there now, and the samples came back to Perth last week and are being processed right at the moment. So I will apologise in advance. We're not talking about the results here, unfortunately. We'll only be talking about what we've done and when to expect the results. So very briefly, obviously most people realise as groundwater moves through the earth, it interacts with bedrock. You get dispersion halos around known mineralisation, such as EMPRESS, such as Mount Isa, Broken Hill, etc. So we used existing water boreholes and exploration drill holes with varying success. One of the things we found in our work up there, this is one of the bores that was sampled. A lot of the databases of borehole locations are very wrong because they actually list soaks and that sort of thing as a borehole location, unfortunately. So there's a lot of tidying up to do in the database, and we look forward to forwarding out our information through to the government later if they're interested in it to help update databases. It's very quick, very fast, and relatively cheap to do. So our project geologist, Nick DeFay, fabulous fellow, managed to sample a number of bores per day, often, on areas or on stations that had well-maintained bores. So it was good technique. This shows one of the sampling in progress out there on the ground and what it's like out there. One of the things, this is actually we're always, and I think all explorers, and I think maybe Mark and everyone else will probably agree to this, that one of the challenges we have faced in North Queensland is interaction with landowners and keeping that relationship positive, and our ability to say, hey, we're going to give you some data for basically allowing us to come onto your station and do this work was a real benefit because it will help them. And we're very happy to share that data with them. There's a lot of stuff they won't need out of it, but if there is information they can use, then I think that's fabulous. Very briefly, this is a flow sheet from CSIRO, which we went to when we did the training. A number of these things, it's a very, very straightforward process. I won't belay today because I think some people know it, some people don't. Collect the sample, rinse equipment, collect second sample, run through a chemical analysis, then clean up and move on. Well, it's very important we also took the opportunity where possible to sample drill cuttings of this site. That's very important for us to build a geological database there as well as just geochemistry. And we brought those back. We'll use those for metrology, and we could even use them for PXRF as well. Samples retrieved by the baler or collected at the surface, and there's a range of different systems, different stations. We did some chemical analyses in the field, simple ones, pH, EH. I'm particularly interested in pH actually, because I think a lot of people will comment that they know can be a distinct marked pH boundary coming up to and then across known major mineralizing systems. So that will be very interesting to look at too. Yeah, and there's a system there, equipment being used. So all those samples, about 2 kilos per sample, essentially got shipped back to Perth for analysis here. And so it was fairly manageable, the whole process. So the system, as I say, is very simple, very robust. That's it there. In the bottom here, you'll see the 1 litre container. They put an activated charcoal pouch in there, which is then retrieved, and that is what's used for the precious metal analyses. It's pretty, the whole thing's pretty ballpark. We had some redundancy there with duplicate equipment. CSIRO are fabulous in that regard, and a couple of different balers and so forth that we could use in case something failed. One of the good things, they have a very good app called FAIMS, which they've adapted for use in the field. You can see it being used there. It's on a tablet. And when you're back into your mobile zone, which some people have, some people don't, we didn't generally, but when we went to town every couple of days, we could upload that data to make sure we wouldn't lose anything. And this is a page from the app. Okay, so what problems do we get? Collapsed, closed-in boreholes, particularly our exploration boreholes. I mean, we're drilling through 50 metres roughly of cover. That material, as most people would know, is pretty unconsolidated or loosely consolidated, particularly the tertiary material at the top, collapsed boreholes. So I think if we did this again, we'd try to do, you know, I don't know, we'd probably try to sample it quite quickly after drilling to away with that. This is one typical kind of bore, unregistered bore actually, but you know we are relying on these to get the information in the first place. So There, as I say, the large number of errors. Some unused boreholes are very overgrown and very difficult to get to, and actually they're hundreds of meters out in accuracy. And some weren't actually drilled into basement. They're only in the cover sequence. But even if it was, we still took a sample, because as most people will know, you'll often have a base metal kick at that interface regardless. And zinc, as most people will know, that up there is ubiquitous, but it can still give us, you know, some guidance as to whether we're in the right kind of area going forward. So in terms of results, this is a plan showing where the boreholes were sampled. Now, with the ones which are part of the round 3 grant, you see in blue there, over there. So 33 of those on our project area. On our other areas, we were able to take CSIRO, we were able to authorise a collection of material samples outside of the project area, but not on anyone else's tenement. So we took another 43 samples outside, and those will be analysed by CSIRO and be part of this ongoing report anyway. So it's really important. This is a huge area. I mean, it's from one end to the other is about 80 kilometres, something like that. So it's a very interesting area, and I think the more we can open up these frontier regions outside of known tenure areas, perhaps the better. So this is one example of an artesian bore, which Nick sampled. Those are actually those are green bags around his boots, so he could actually get in there. We did find a couple of artesian bores which we could sample quite easily, obviously. So analyses. This is very briefly the kind of work that CSIRO will do. As I say, the gold PGE is on activated carbon in there. A broad ICP, MS and OES suite. A range of other ion chromatography, alkalinity. One of the interesting things, excuse me, that we really want to incorporate in this is sulfur isotopes. So those samples will be going to Canada, because that will be quite an important element, I think, of this work. So, yep. So what do we hope for? Obviously, this is a plan showing the groundwater sites as part of the Exploring for the Future program in the Ties region, up in the Gulf there, Northern Territory, Queensland, and that was done, I think, 2017. Here are some results of that work. It would be very nice if we can pull our data in with the other GSQ data to provide something like this as guidance going forward. And you know, this conceivably is the kind of thing that we may be able to achieve out of the work. So the likely deliverables, element distribution plots. This is one from the Mount Isa Cloncurry region, showing, you know, anomalous hits, and that's very interesting. I think we will get plots like that, which will be very helpful and guidance for us going forward. And there's another one for lithium. Element ratio plots. So calcium, magnesium is one provided as an example by Ryan. These will be used by our consultant geochemist and, of course, by CSIRO, looking for targets. And we're very lucky to have CSIRO because they will incorporate this into their much broader database of knowledge to give us context. So how does our information fit into the broader picture, and in terms of cut-offs and grades and that sort of thing. So those are part of the deliverables. So just in summary, spreadsheet of all hydrochemical results, such as, and historical regional samples in the area. So you can see there on the right here, there's a number of existing data points there, which will be incorporated into those databases so we can then build on them. Unity-generated results such as mineral saturation indices, exploration indices, and the key thing is supervised machine learning. They're putting this through the number cruncher at CSIRO, looking for trends and so forth, which mere mortals like me couldn't pick, and I'm confident we'll come up with some interesting conclusions. And then, of course, the report, showing a mineral exploration potential and lithogeochemistry. This is one of the interesting things because it'll compare with what we've done. And, Nick's collected rock chip samples at bores. We'll compare that with the lithogeochem and go, yeah, that's spot on. Or go, hang on, what's going on here? Well, I found granite, but it's got saying there's felsic volcanics in the area. Let's have a look at that a little bit more closely so we can actually interpret it. There are a number of resources. I think all explorers should really link in with CSIRO and Ryan Noble. Wonderful team. Field guides make it very, very easy for us. And of course, the online resources you'll see here on the left, the Groundwater Explorer portal, other key access portals, and then reports of various hydrogeochemical data studies. So look, that's me. It's pretty short and sweet. Apologies to all. I was hoping to be chapter and verse about all the wonderful anomalies we found. That can't be the case. I just want to say very quickly, I'd like to thank GSQ for their very professional administration of the CEI grant scheme. It's been very good, and their understanding of the COVID-19 restrictions on us, because it really did smashes for 6 months. Smashes. So. Clearly, CSIRO and Ryan Noble, in particular, for his ongoing expertise and support. Ryan is a wealth of information and very approachable, so I encourage you to link in. I'd say watch this space. Results will be announced soon. So we're working on it and crunching it, and as soon as they are available, we will let you all know. So I guess from us, that's basically it.